Shelly.
Hi.
Welcome back. I see
Thanks
you're
for having me.
I see I have the benefit of a superior lighting establishment for the flops.
This is
People
true.
Mahaha. Thank you for your effort, I suppose. Despite my
You can
video being
see now that it's
720p.
clearly it's clearly purple.
That's true.
So
Before
those of you who love the Shelly books, leave purple emojis down below.
is there
You
purple
are on my
emojis?
team.
Is there a
I like
purple
purple
emoji?
hearts and stuff.
Oh, okay. Right. Oh, that's true. I think I've seen those around. So you can do that, but there's many more blue things you could probably do, or stars,
No.
or
You have
something.
stars on those. Oh, that's
No,
nice.
they're. I don't
Diamonds.
actually know what they are. Yeah, they're kind of like a squiggly with little dots next to them. Maybe they're supposed to be snowflakes or something. I don't really know. But anyway,
hmm You ready?
get creative.
Get
Yes.
creative. I know. Well, I guess if you put diamonds, I guess have diamonds. Well, you know what? We're gonna get started.
Yeah. Okay. So in what order would you like to proceed? Do you have criteria or from least favorite to highest favorite or oh yeah, by the way, this is the champagne.
Oh yeah,
And
the best of
yeah,
the best. We're really not focused today, so it's okay. Yesterday was New Year's Eve,
exactly.
so we had a great time partying it up in our separate.
Yeah.
You and I didn't celebrate together, but we had separate fun New Year's Eve plans, and
Yes.
now we are here on New Year's Day, very tired.
Yeah. I was getting wasted playing Wingspan. A
And
board game.
I was spending time with another couple who has children, so we're just perpetually tired all the time.
And and by wasted I mean that I don't ever drink alcohol, so that's why it's funny.
Neither do
Yeah.
I, which is why it's kind of like a tongue-in-cheek thing. It's like
Yes.
champagne and beer. So,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
hmm
This is the champagne. So do you want to go least to most, or do you want to do the other format where it's like thought about
Book we thought
most?
about the most. Okay, well, I don't mind. I just don't really have like an order. I have a top, and then the other two are like
Oh,
fighting for number two. They're
oh,
like
okay.
swapping back and forth. One of which you really love. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm sure I'll, as usual, think of it as it is spoken aloud.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
You go first.
Okay, so I'm going to start. I'll start with my shortest read, and then maybe I'll move up to my longest because actually
Oh.
that works out well. So even even if you don't have to follow it, but
Mm.
this is the one that where I don't have the book. But it's Tennessee Williams, A Streetcar Named Desire. I listened to this on Audible, and it has like a full cast,
Mm.
and I thought it was brilliant. It's really sort of it's mostly three characters that are pretty toxic and, and pretty dysfunctional, and they're thrown together, two of which are sisters who have a pretty not great relationship, and you're finding out the background of Blanche, and wow, she's got a background on her. And it was really good. It's one of those classic like Southern Gothic product like pieces of literature that I'd never seen the movie, and I'd never read the play or listened to the play or anything. So I was really glad to finally get around to it, and I thought it was brilliant.
And we had to read that in school, and I loved it. And we watched it too, the Marlon Brando one.
I
Stella.
own the movie. I own the movie, and we've never popped it in. We've never watched it.
Oh
So
yeah. I feel like
yeah.
I feel like I've signaled to many a folk about particular people depending on the kindness of strangers on the
Uh
DL many times. Now you're in on that.
yes.
Like
Yeah, yeah. That she Blanche herself was a really kind of fascinating character, and arguably, although the three main characters are extremely strong, I would say Blanche, it was almost a singular character study on Blanche,
mhm.
and everyone else is there to support like like us finding out more about her. which is
Yeah.
really interesting.
The
Yeah.
ending is just a complete gut punch too.
I was like, what in the world? There was a couple of mic drop moments where I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. What in Sam
It's like
Hill?
it's like a car crash. You don't want to look at it, but you can't look away. You're like, I can't. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was great. It was great. It was great. Okay,
Yes.
go ahead. Your what is this? Your favorite? The thing you thought about the most? Shortest?
The one I thought about the most, I think,
Okay.
is Faithful Place by Tana French. I
Tana
actually read
French
the
is great.
entire series.
Oh, did you?
Well, from 3 to 6. Because
Nice.
I had finished the first two sequentially, like right away, basically.
What number is this?
This is the third book. So right after
Oh,
those.
okay.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of the strongest. In the second book, The Likeness, we see one of the characters take on a job from an undercover like operator, the guy who runs it. And this book is about that person, Frank, in his
Oh.
past, actually. And it's really interesting. It goes back. So each of these sort of interrogate a particular character from the Dublin Murder Squad and what fundamentally makes them tick, like their secret and faithful place in this case. But they're like secret heart. It's very like
Mhm.
Donna Tartt in some ways, like how she makes characters. It feels exactly similar
Interesting.
interrogation and almost meandering way to get to like the dark room of each character. And in this case, Frank is still young and on the squad, and
Mhm.
he goes back home to spend some time with his family, which is extremely dysfunctional, and he hasn't been back in many years. We learn because his then girlfriend, they made a secret plan in a faithful place to run away from home together at a young age, like 16, 17 or whatever. And it's during the Troubles, and they were going to go to England and disappear, basically. She never shows up for that meeting under kind of like suspicious circumstances, but he finds a note from her saying that
Oh.
she left before him. And so he was kind of like heartbroken and thought that he was kind of like used just to kind of get like the ferry ticket. And everybody else, not having communicated with Frank, assumes that they have left together. In the future, however, there's a murder, and it begins to unravel this thread to the point where nobody knows where she is, and she is, perchance been killed. And it starts to tug on
Um,
his own memories. So there's like this really interesting way of him recalling what has happened and then trying to kind of like interrogate the actual moments and his waiting and trying to remember things and dredge up things. And because it's the neighborhood and like a very tight knit community, they don't want him pulling on these threads and stuff. So he's being like threatened, and in some ways, his family is being dragged into it, and his family is very tumultuous. His father used to like beat him and his family, and that's why he was trying to get out of there. And now he's like an older, kind of frail man, and it's kind of exploring their relationship dynamics, which have completely flipped. It was just exceptional. It was just, yeah, really, really great stuff.
yeah.
Whew, whew.
I like Tana French. She's great. She
Mhm.
really is.
What's
My
your
next the
middle
next one,
length?
my middle length,
Yeah.
which again we read together, but I think I liked it far more than you did.
Oh
I
yeah.
think, yeah, I think so. Because it's I Capture the Castle by Dottie
Oh
Smith.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think you liked it more than me. That's
I think
fair to say.
so. Yeah, I really, I think I like this, or like it made the tops because I would like to read more 20th century women writers because that's what Dottie Smith was, or, and so I think that there's this, I don't know, there's like this sort of why I like this is because the setting was just great. Like it's in this decrepit, like falling apart castle, and you're following a cast of very eccentric characters that make up a very eccentric family. And there's not a ton of like characters or anything. It's really kind of a quiet novel, but some of it was laugh out loud funny. Some of it
Hmm.
was just like had that angstiness of teenage life and the coming of age, feelings, but not to the point where it was like annoying or too angsty. I don't know. I just thought this was like the perfect type of the perfect classic. I guess.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
timeless.
really liked it. No, but like, I mean, well, it did end abruptly, in my opinion. Like, I was like, it could have been longer.
Longer.
Yeah.
I liked the beginning a heck of a lot. And then the characters got a little bit more exasperating for me as it went on because it establishes the stakes and they become very interesting. And then it kind of like circumnavigates to the conclusion many times where they're like circling back on each other. And in some ways, it's very fun because like the women, the relationships are like very interesting. But then in another way, I was just like, oh, you people are exasperating. Just do the thing. you know.
Well, yeah, I get it. I get that. I just I just liked it.
Yeah.
I just I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see that critique, but I thought it almost gave it like a comedy of errors kind of feel to it. And I liked that. And I liked that it just felt if the Three Stooges, if the humor of the Three Stooges was shrunken down into a novel that's set in England in the 1930s, I think, then this is what you would get. I don't know. I just, and it's not even slapstick. It was just silly in some ways. I just thought it was a nice reprieve from the books that I was hating this month. So yeah.
Hmm.
Or the other
Like,
middling. I felt like I had a lot of middling books this month.
thank God
So
you read that after Call Down the Hawk.
yeah.
Yeah.
I needed to get something. I needed to get characters back in my life, okay? Like
Hmm.
sweet characters.
Hmm. I forgive you.
Hmm. You better. You better.
Yeah. I will say I really liked actually the resolution. It had some payoff at the end that I didn't actually think was even coming, related to like the father.
Oh, I don't know. I think I really liked that the father was this writer of a novel, and the novel ends up being like its own like like thing. Like he'll never write anything good as Jacob's wrestling, and that ends up being a thing. And I just the whole ordeal. Because I think in some ways I could ID with the father. I was like, I want to buy an old castle in the middle of nowhere and fix it up, and then like the inevitable would happen, and it's just like it's dying. Like it's just decrepit and falling apart. And I've just put my family through tumult, for the last decade and a half or something. Yeah.
Yep.
I could just ID with all of them, with all of the characters. I just loved it. It was great.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah.
listen to Frasier. It was amazing.
Hey, I thought the bear part was very funny.
The bear part was amazing. Okay. It was amazing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I like the winter solstice part. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Go.
You
Okay, go
like a
ahead.
lot of parts.
I like
All
all
the
the
parts.
parts.
Yeah.
All the parts.
My next one will be a book that I think will be a modern classic, possibly, which is
Mm.
Embassy Town by
Oh.
China Miéville. This was
Oh, okay.
really excellent. It
It's number,
has
is
most
it
of
number
the
two
no,
in the
it's a
series?
standalone book. Yeah,
Oh.
I did this before the second book, to Perdido Street Station because I got this a while ago on Audible during that $5 sale. Fraser was snapping them up to great effect and to little effect, depending.
I know
Yeah,
you were encouraging me to buy, and I was like, I'm not ready.
yeah. Well, I mean, prior to the orange tree, $5. Come on, people. But Embassy Town has all the components of Perdido Street Station, I think. It is different in that it's still kind of grotesque and it's definitely weird as hell. It's about these aliens that essentially are nourished by language, yet when the humanoids are trying to talk to them because of the way that they communicate, they cannot glean any like intelligence in it. Like they just cannot make it work, because they need it spoken from two voices at the same time and have like a certain amount of like intention held in the mind or something like that. So it's, yeah, in true Melville style, it's like way out there, but it's also like got some really interesting politicking, and he's just got like a way with articulating these thought experiments with a plot behind them and characters that make it so compelling. Like, it's just completely enthralling yet frustratingly difficult to talk about any of his books, because there's nothing to compare them to, really, like, except for maybe other books of his, because
Right.
he's the new weird king or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, new weird king, that's going to be like a new, genre thing that means nothing, basically. But yeah, it really is just like a kind of weird, I don't know how to explain, but very much enjoy as I'm encountering it. um
Interesting.
so I think it's more cerebral, I guess, than Perdido Street Station, and less plotty. But the thought experiment, I think, is just really well thought out and interesting to see. Whereas Perdido Street Station feels more like a traditional novel to get people to like sucked into it, I guess. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
nice. Well, I might pick up Perdido Street Station later this month, but I'm not. I'm letting myself mood read, so who knows what's going to happen.
Who knows?
I know. Do you want to guess my favorite?
No.
No. Okay.
Oh yeah, that
The
makes
Story of
sense.
a New Name by Elena Ferrante. Yeah, this was so this is the second book in her Neapolitan series in which you follow two friends, Leela and Lenu, and this is the continuation of their, I would say, like they're out of childhood. It's like they're late teens and early 20s, and you're still set in this very small town in Italy, in a very small kind of insular neighborhood, and you
Hmm.
just continue their story. And I really liked it. It was very tumultuous and like very lots of twists and turns, but Elena Ferrante has this quality of her writing in which I feel like she is just like telling you a story, and that reaching for she's not trying to dazzle you with language or with sentence structure, in that like she's not putting anything in a way that's highfalutin or anything. It's very grounded, it's very down to earth, and the way that she's doing it makes it feel very friendly and very real. So I really appreciate that, and so I just felt like I was back sort of in the company of a good friend telling me this wild and insane story, and I was just there and I was like, wait, what? Like, I was just like, what is happening? So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's a wild ride, that series. Are you gonna
It
continue on with the next one relatively soon, or?
yeah, because it's like my mood reading year, it might be the next like thing I pick up. I've read the first like 50 words on my Kindle for the next book, but if I read it at night, I'll just fall asleep, and so that's what happens. Like, yeah, no matter what it is. But I have it in mind to pick up
Mm, mm,
soon.
excellent.
So
Yeah.
what's your last book?
The last book, what is the last category again as well that we do?
Classic? Favorite classic?
No,
Book you
this is,
thought about the most?
yeah,
Classic. And
the
oh,
modern
you're just your
classic one I
favorite
did.
fave.
Oh, the
Or just
favorite
your
fave.
favorite. Yeah.
I don't know if I think Embassy Town would also be my favorite fave, and I don't think this will be a classic, but I wanted to spotlight it because it was like really surprisingly fresh and interesting. Fantasy book, The Black Tongue Thief, by
Hmm.
Christopher Buehlman, something like that. And he narrated it as well. I
Okay.
have the beautiful artifact of a book somewhere. Probably I was trying to put it in pride of place somewhere and put it somewhere else or something. But yeah, I'll insert the picture, but it's absolutely gorgeous. it felt a lot like a Dungeons and Dragons book if those books didn't blow. Basically, they
Yeah.
do usually end up being terrible. And there's like a sort of ineffable Irish quality to it, which is what is the secret sauce of the book, I think. Like, I haven't ever read a fantasy book that was steeped in like high fantasy stuff, but then set in like something so indelibly Irish as well to the quality. Like he even has dirges in it and he sings them expertly, like perfectly in the audiobook. It's wild. So it kind of
That's
reminds me of
weird.
Tolkien in that way, where he like
Yeah.
took a lot of time to compose these songs. Yet these are actually like awesome. It's very dark fantasy. It's about a character who is indentured basically to a thieves guild for education. So it's kind of about education as well, where like uh, instead of people emerging as academics, they emerge as like these people able to do some small spell work, some thieving, some swashbuckling, some all around stuff. And he like takes actual courses in doing this stuff all previously.
Oh.
And then, but the thing
Hmm.
is that when people emerge from this academy, they're indentured to it. And thus these people have like this monopoly on their skills, just like in academia, and they send them out to do their bidding.
Oh.
They cannot say no. They'll either their dues will come due, be killed or whatever. And in this way, this monopoly is sort of the premier power of the region and gets their way at essentially everything. He stumbles into a plot, and it sort of like reveals these threads, and it becomes very dangerous for him. And it so much happens in the book. Like at one point, he's on a ship and a kraken attacks and stuff. But there's also a romance component where he's like in love with this weird witchy lady. But it becomes like an odd arrangement where it's not when they get married, it's for a certain amount of time only, like 4 months is agreed upon. And then after that, the contract changes because everything's done by these weird archaic contract stuff because the guild has sort of like normalized that in the area. And nobody's like a very good character. Everybody's sort of like morally gray out for themselves because of this system that has perpetuated that notion in their head. So it's very
Hmm.
interesting, actually. And it's the first in the series, but buttons up very nicely. And things that seem very um, circumstantial become very like big components of the plot later on, which I just love. Good action, interesting characters. There's a lot of people that are like having a lot of fun in very Irish ways, like singing and drinking and telling like very like super honest stories about their lives. um
Gosh.
yeah, it was just really great. I gave it 4 stars because I think it was like a little bit too long, and it's definitely like commercial fiction plot heavy book, but it's also like something that felt very fresh and new in that space.
That's
So
cool.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good. Makes me want to read it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was our champagne,
Yes.
the best of the best.
Yeah. They're
Um,
corking good.
the
Because Cork is a place in Ireland.
Yeah,
And then
I
Champagne
love
has a
it.
cork.
But
Oh, yeah. You all come here for my cleverness. I know it. No.
I know. This is why I show up all the time.
Yeah, after an exasperated sigh. Exactly. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you for coming as usual.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me and sharing. I appreciate it.
Yes, and I will see
Yeah.
you next time.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
Goodbye.